Will we ever get another ranked mode? I don't know why we'd want to make another ranked mode, given that that could potentially split the player base, which is not ideal. The question to ask about a ranked mode, though, like, honestly, is like, because people ask this a lot, they ask about, like, Aram, right? They're like, what about ranked Aram, right? Is the second you have a ranked mode for any actual mode, you have completely changed the incentive structure around that mode and the tone of that mode. And so one of the reasons we don't make a ranked Aram is because ranked Aram is a for fun game mode. It's supposed to be casual, it's supposed to be silly, and the second it's ranked, people start taking it more seriously, they start tryharding a lot more, and that's just a different tone, that's a different situation for any mode that would have it. And a lot of times, depending on what that mode's goals are, that can actually be actively worse. It just depends on what you're looking for. And so could we, at some point make a mode that was like, hey, this mode actually makes a lot of sense having ranked and make ranked for it? Yeah, sure, 100%, definitely. And then the other thing to do about a ranked mode that's really important, because we've had ranked modes in the past. There was like ranked Twisted Tree Line. I don't know if ranked Dominion ever was a thing. I can't remember if that ended up coming out or not. But we had ranked modes in the past. Is ranked modes, even more than normal modes, must have a player base. They must have a healthy, sustainable player base that will constantly play it. Otherwise, you get really, really low quality games, especially at the ends of the ladder, either really low MMR or really, really high MMR. And so another thing to consider with any mode that we release is, A, will this mode have enough players? B, will this mode, when split in two between ranked and normals, have enough players? And then C, for the ranked mode specifically, will that ranked ladder sustain enough players to create high-quality, compelling games in the long term? That's really important to think about. What's the average time for Champion Concept to full release? It is the average time typically is a year, with some champions taking a lot longer and some champions being shorter. The fastest one I ever worked on was Vi. Vi, I started in July, near the end of July, and she released at the start of December. And that was back when we were still releasing characters every 2 weeks. So what is that? That's kind of like July, August, September, October, November. That was 4 to 5 months for Vi. And Jin took 7 months. Jinx was a year. VIEGO was a very long time because of all the bugs. Silas, I think, took 2 years because of, making the game work for him. And so some characters can take a lot longer, either due to release timelines or massive changes we need to make. But the average time is about a year from start of iteration to release. Yeah. And the reason a character like VIEGO or Silas takes a long time is because when a game is made, say League of Legends, it's not necessarily made with certain assumptions. And if you don't make it with those assumptions, or you don't make it to be open to those assumptions, then it's not going to work. Those assumptions won't work in the future until you remake the roster. And so as an example, with Silas, League of Legends really wasn't set up to have just any ult in the game be copied over to another character, which is what Silas does, right? And so Silas required a rescripting of a number of ultimates in League of Legends, as well as an update to our tooltip system to allow the tooltips for those ultimates to transition their way onto Silas, basically. VIEGO is a bit different than Silas. VIEGO, what he does is he literally turns into their character. He becomes them. And most characters in League of Legends, when they were not made with the assumption that they could ever not be themselves. And so the reason that VIEGO ended up needing tons and tons of work and lots of changes to the roster and rescripts was that a lot of characters just had permanent things they put on themselves that they could never remove in any way because they're well, of course I don't need to remove this in any way. I'm always going to be me. I'm not going to swap off Annie mid-game, right? Like, that's not going to happen. I'm just always going to be Annie, right? And so VIEGO ended up requiring the entire roster of champions be rescripted, especially in regards to their passives, to make sure that VIEGO didn't retain permanently any passive that he gained when he became someone else. And then there's other things like VIEGO had to deal with like characters like swapping out spells and like QWE, things like that. So yeah, some characters can be big undertakings from a QA or bug standpoint. Some characters can be a big undertaking just from like, it takes a while to get the right kit for them, things like that. Just depends. But the average time I'd say is about a year. Bring back active use on VIEGO Possess. Oh, so here's a fun story for you all that Afek brings up. So VIEGO, as you know, takes everybody's items, right? Originally, I felt it would be lame if he didn't get their active items. I was like, if VIEGO's copying your items, he needs to copy all the effects. So if it's an active, he should be able to cast the active as well. So VIEGO originally could use your active items when he copied you over. This created a lot of problems. First of all, he'd get your trinket. So originally when I put him in, VIEGO would just get free wards whenever he captured somebody's, possessed somebody. So I had to disable trinkets. But then after that, he would get things like Rift Herald. And so there was this bug that was in him for a while where like VIEGO, if he killed you and captured your body while you had Rift Herald, he would get your Rift Herald and he could cast your Rift Herald. And I would have to tell people in playtest, please don't steal the other team's Rift Herald. That's not nice. And then people would do it anyways because it was fun. So like I would like see these tests from our testing team and they're like, August, VIEGO's still taking Rift Herald. And I'd be like, I told you guys not to use it. And they're like, we're going to use it, man. It's too fun not to. And I was like, okay, so had to disable Rift Herald. And then eventually what would happen then is a meta developed where when people knew that there was a VIEGO on the enemy team and they knew that he would steal their active items, they would put their active items on bad buttons so that the VIEGO player wouldn't be able to cast them. Because remember, when VIEGO steals your items, he puts them in the respective slots. And so if you have your Zhonya's on 2, VIEGO would put it on 2. And so what people were doing in playtest to like counter VIEGO is we were like, I have a Zhonya's Hourglass, but I'm putting it on 7 so that the VIEGO player can't cast it easily. And so the VIEGO would then get your thing and be like, why is your Zhonya's on 7, dude? And they wouldn't be able to cast it and he'd die. And yeah. And eventually I was just like, you know what? This was actually, I shouldn't say I did this. This was at the earnest encouragement of our game analysis team. They were just like, August, VIEGO casting active items is bad. It is not good. It is not okay. You need to get rid of it. And I was very resistant to that for a while, but eventually, at their urging, I removed all the active items and just locked them all out, and he became a much better character, I think, in the long run. Both because he became more playable, because it's just like you don't want to have to worry about actives when you're trying to learn an entire enemy champion's new entire kit, but then also because he didn't have those weird optimizations like stick your Zhonya's Hourglass on the 7 key to like make sure that VIEGO can't take it from you. And then also it was just like some of the actives that he could steal were just evil, right? Like imagine VIEGO getting your Zhonya's Hourglass. That's kind of messed up, no? Like imagine VIEGO getting your Hextech Proto Belt. Not as messed up as Zhonya's, but still kind of messed up, no? So yeah, it was messed up, and it's good that we got away from it.